Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Gambling Did You Know session. Today, we're going to be talking about some common fallacies when it comes to gambling. And a lot of these can be things that don't necessarily relate to gambling. They can apply to other parts of our lives as well. So we are going to jump right in. There is a lot to talk about. So first off, I want to start with what actually a fallacy is. Basically, it's some sort of deceptive or misleading belief. It's a false belief that many people have, or it's a commonly held belief that is actually not true. It can also be a misleading or unsound argument. So that is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to have different examples today of, again, gambling-related fallacies that many people believe in and unfortunately are not actually true. But we're going to go about this by answering a couple questions today. So we have, I believe, 9 different fallacies that we're going to talk through and some examples to show why that's actually not true. So for the first fallacy here, this question kind of exhibits this. So the first question is, roughly what percentage of US and Canadian high school students have not tried alcohol, cigarettes, or marijuana in the past year? And the answers are 5%, 15%, or 35%. So I'm going to leave this up for just a couple seconds, and then we'll kind of move through and actually talk about what this is, what the fallacy is here. So the answer for this one is actually 35%. So roughly 35% of US and Canadian high school students have actually not tried these substances in the past year. And, this fallacy here is normalizing behavior. So this is the first fallacy that we're going to talk about. So it's common for people to sort of think about themselves and their friends and things like that when they're not sure how normal their experiences are. So again, they compare themselves to people they know. For instance, with this question, we might actually underestimate how many students are going drug and alcohol free because maybe we all pretty much know someone who uses these substances. Or, when we're in high school, it seems like so many people are talking about these substances, so many people are using these substances. So, we may actually underestimate that number. When it comes to gambling, this is definitely still applicable. So many people actually overestimate the number of people who behave similar to themselves when it comes to gambling. So, having this thought process of many people or lots of other people gamble, just as much as I do. They spend as much time and money gambling. So really, my behavior can't be that negative. So that's kind of a trap that many people fall into, and that's our first fallacy of the day. Our next question for our second fallacy is, do more people die from having a stroke or from accidents? So what do you think here? And the answer is that almost twice as many people actually die from strokes as compared to accidents. So many more people are dying from strokes than from accidents. And the fallacy here is confusing the words and the meanings of these words, often and memorable. So, many people tend to think about or judge things by how memorable they are, not how often they are. So, for instance, again, for this question, we might think that more people die from accidents because we're more likely to hear about accidents and people dying from accidents on the news or, seeing that on social media or something like that. We're less likely to hear about those deaths due to strokes. So that's why we can kind of think that accidents are more common. And then again, how does this apply to gambling? Wins are often a lot more memorable than a person's losses when it comes to gambling. They're more exciting. They tend to be a little bit larger. They are a lot less frequent, but again, they are also, more exciting. So it makes sense that a person would be excited about those wins, but we tend to kind of think that, or we tend to remember those wins a lot better than those losses just because of the memorable aspect as opposed to how often it happens. And again, many people who do gamble, they think, they might be ahead based off those memorable wins. as opposed to the fact that they're actually losing a lot of money and they're just kind of not recognizing that as much. So question 3 for our third fallacy. What do you think here? So you were wearing green socks when you got an A on your last math test. What is the best strategy you have for getting an A on your next test? You can wear the same green socks for the next test. You can wear red socks for the next one, or you can study. The socks you wear have nothing to do with it. And hopefully this answer is fairly clear when we're putting it in this example. The best option here is to study. It doesn't matter what socks you wear for this test. I will say, as long as you're not being distracted by your socks while taking the test, and then it's causing stress or something like that. So studying is your best option here. And this fallacy is dealing with superstitions. So a lot of people do have superstitions. Even though for this example, even though most people know that those socks really aren't going to have an effect on their test taking ability, their grades, many of us will still actually pick out that, lucky sock or lucky clothes, whatever it is, just to have that extra luck, have that other thing in our back pocket type of idea. But this also, again, applies to gambling because many people actually believe that they can improve their luck by, repeating some sort of superstition or habit that they have falsely connected with past wins. This could be something as random, but as simple as, last time I went to the casino and I won some money, I had a Jimmy John's sub for lunch or something like that day. So now every time I'm going to go to the casino, I'm going to go get Jimmy John's first, and hopefully I'm going to win again. Something as, again, random, unrelated to their gambling ability and gambling wins as eating a sub, but that's something that people can believe. The next question here is, what do you think? So this person, you can see a picture on the left, just kind of a general example of a person. So this person is very private, wears thick glasses, likes books, and her friends consider her boring. Is she more likely to be a saleswoman or a librarian? And the answer here is that she's almost certainly a saleswoman. Now, why is that? So this fallacy is dealing with ignoring the odds. Many people do ignore the odds, but statistically, there are about 50 saleswomen for every one librarian in North America. So, just this graph can help us look at this a little bit, but even if 100% of the librarians in North America fit this profile and only 10% of the saleswomen fit this profile, there would still be 5 times as many saleswomen with this profile compared to librarians. So, it may seem like it's more likely that the person might be a librarian just based off that example, but just the odds are stacked against this. So a person who would be, betting on that librarian, that would be ignoring the odds. So again, how do people who gamble ignore the odds? This is a very big fallacy that many people have. So most people believe, again, in general here, that they can win money over the long term when gambling. Ignoring the odds or ignoring the fact that the house edge is going to make this pretty much mathematically impossible. So if you're, again, betting against the house in any way in order to make money, you have bad odds. Basically, you have negative odds. You have a lower chance of winning than you do of losing. But just to take this another step further, so many people do buy lottery tickets despite the fact that there's almost no chance of you winning it. Again, for Powerball, the odds of you winning that jackpot is 1 in 292 million. That's very, very, very low. So, people do sometimes win it, but the odds are just not there. It's very, very low odds. And again, some people might actually buy lottery tickets or gamble in a certain way because they know someone who has been successful in the past, they have won. That is another example of ignoring the odds. So question 5 for fallacy 5. So you flip a coin and it comes up heads 100% of the time. How many times did you probably flip it? A is 10 times, B is 2 times, and C is equally likely to be either 2 times or 10 times. And the answer for this one is 2 times. So why is that? This is talking about the law of averages. This is something that a lot of people forget. It kind of goes alongside the house edge a little bit, but what the law of averages states is that the more times that something happens, the closer the average result will be to its true odds. So if we're looking at, a coin flip, we've got heads and tails, you've got a 50-50 chance of getting those. So, for this example, it's not unusual to flip a coin just 2 times and get heads both times, but it would be a lot more uncommon or more unlikely to flip a coin 10 times and get heads every single time, just because of those odds there. So you would expect roughly 5 heads, 5 tails for that 10 times. So that is the law of averages, another big one there. Question 6, what do you think here? So who is more likely to throw a pair of 6s when it comes to dice? So someone who has just thrown a pair of 6s or someone who has not thrown a pair of 6s in the last 10 throws? And this one is actually a trick question. So both are equally likely. And this one, the fallacy here is that random events are not influenced by history. But many people believe that they are. So, this kind of goes against us a little bit when it comes to real life situations, because in most real life situations, history can help us predict the future, at least to a certain extent, right? So for example, if it was, very cold yesterday, today is more likely to be cold than very hot. Also, if a team, whatever team we're talking about, whatever sport, if they've lost, 7 games in a row, you can probably guess that they're going to lose the 8th game in a row. Both of these might not be completely true, but statistically, there's a good chance that we can predict the future, again, to a certain extent, just knowing that past history. So what this means, though, is we kind of take this into gambling a lot of times. So we look for patterns and expect these events, these gambling events, to be predictable. But again, this does work against us many times because most gambling games are designed to keep the odds the exact same no matter what. Every single time you play, whatever happened the previous round, that doesn't matter. It's just the same exact odds every time you play. So again, for example, when it comes to dice, roulette wheels, coin flips, slot machines, all of these different things, these are all random events. So the odds are going to be the exact same every single time you play, no matter what happened in the last time you played. So question 7, if you want to design a new game that will get people to spend as much money as possible at your casino, which of the following $1 games will encourage people to play the longest and spend the most amount of money? So we have A is people almost always win $5 the first time they play, but they never win again. B is people almost always win $5 every 8 to 10 times they play. And C, people almost always win $20 the first time they play, and after that, they occasionally win $2. So which one is going to make people play the longest? And the answer here is C. So why is that? This fallacy is early wins and occasional rewards encourage false hope. So, breaking this down a little bit, people who, for A, if you answered A, people who win $5 the first time they play, sure, they'll probably keep playing a little bit. But, once they just keep losing, they're not winning anything, they're probably going to stop playing pretty quickly. When it comes to B, it's likely that they'll play a little bit longer than A, but again, they'll eventually probably stop playing because, they're just kind of starting to realize over time that they're just losing money. They're not, getting any wins that's going to put them in the positive direction there. And then when it comes to C, this is the best option because, if you give someone that big win in the beginning, they're going to want to play a little bit longer right off the bat, but that small amount is going to help them keep playing longer, right? So that small win of $2 every few, rolls or plays, That's going to keep them playing a little bit longer, and keep their hopes up that they might win that big $20 again. So again, most commercial gambling enterprises, they recognize this principle, they understand this, so that's what they're going to offer. They're going to offer infrequent large wins, but very frequent small wins to keep you playing. And this is why we say that most problem gamblers, most people who struggle with gambling, had the misfortune of a big win when they first started to gamble, because that's just going to keep them gambling longer and set them up for basically struggles or problems in the future. And question 8, what do you think here? So think of the last test where you did well, right? So you took this test, you did well, you got a good grade. Why did you succeed? Why did you do well on that test? Some common answers might be, you studied hard, you knew the material, things like that. Now think about the last test where you didn't do well. Why did you not do better there? Again, examples might be that the test was too hard. It didn't measure what you studied. Maybe the teacher didn't explain it clearly, things like that. So are we noticing a pattern here? So this fallacy is attributing success to skill and failure to bad luck. This is something that many of us do, again, not related to gambling, but also related to gambling. So again, most people are going to kind of take credit for their success and blame failure on things that they can't control. Again, when it comes to gambling, same thing. So most people are going to think that their wins are due to their own skill, and then their losses, that's just bad luck. I still have the skill. I can go back in and win in the future. And then last fallacy here. So last question, which best predicts happiness? A is money, B is close friendships, C is power, and D is fame. And this one is close friendships. So fallacy 9 is that money does not solve all problems, unfortunately. So on average, rich people are not actually significantly happier than people, of middle class. When it comes to, other groups, when it comes to, rich people versus very poor people, we do see a difference there. But, when it's middle class, kind of middle of the road compared to, richer people, there's not a significant difference in the amount of happiness that they have. So people who actually win the lottery, this is interesting, tend to be, very happy that first year. Obviously, there's a huge rush of happiness there, but generally they're going to return to their previous level of happiness after that first year. And many gamblers actually believe that if they do become rich, all of their problems will be solved. They'll be happy. This actually is not generally how it works, because people who struggle with gambling usually have other problems in their lives, and money isn't going to solve all of those things. Money's not going to buy back the trust that you've lost. It's not going to kind of fill any emptiness inside of you. So that is all of our fallacies for today. Hopefully this was educational. I do have some resources on the screen as well. So again, as usual, if you do want to reach out to these, you want more information, or you want to find out more about treatment and recovery, or even just prevention as a whole, all of these resources are great places to reach out to. So please feel free to do that. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another Gambling Did You Know session.